Hello, mighty men and women of justice. I'm Quilen Blackwell with Activist Academy, and welcome to this week's version of Activist Academy Weekly, where we discuss this week's most interesting and pressing news topics in the field of community activism. Well, let's get straight to this week's news brief.
Welcome back. Our next guest has made headlines for her innovative education reform programs that make students the top priority. She gained national recognition for those ideas in the documentary Waiting for Superman.
Every morning, and you know that kids are getting a really crappy education right now.
So you think that most of the kids are getting a crappy education?
I think they are. I know they are.
There you
Legislation
go.
passed by the House Wednesday got the cold shoulder in the Senate today. Correspondent Molly Henneberg tells us about the vote on the DREAM Act.
Now that it's passed the House.
Top Senate Democrat Harry Reid said it would be, quote, futile for the Senate to vote today on its version of the DREAM Act after the House passed its own by a vote of 216 to 198. The DREAM Act offers a path to citizenship.
Justice and inequities that plague society. Ben Shahn combined a unique artistic and social vision to provide a voice for those who needed it most. While his paintings and murals were aesthetically pleasing, Shahn's greatest contribution is that he purposely captured the ugliest moments of much of the 20th century in his art, hoping that his paintings would remind the world of the urgent need for social reform.
Hi, welcome to this week's Bible View Tip of the Week. Today we're going to be talking about what do you see? This is in relation to vision and community activism. Well, there's three things that we need to know as it relates to community activism and our vision. The first thing is understanding the difference between natural truth versus God's truth. Natural truth are facts, things that we can see, feel, taste, touch, things that affect our natural senses. God's truth are things such as the Word or things that are in the supernatural, things that we need to use our faith in order to obtain. Well, an example of how this can be related to activism is found in 2 Kings chapter 6, verses 8 to 17. Here we see the prophet Elisha facing an army, the king's army, who's looking to take him out. Well, his servant who is with him is trembling with fear as he's only looking at the natural facts, because the natural facts suggest that they're outnumbered and that they're going to be defeated. But Elisha, he's looking at the supernatural. He's looking at God's truth. And he simply prays that the Lord will open up the servant's eyes. And when the Lord opens up his eyes, what he sees is, he looks to the hillside and he sees a vast army of warrior angels and warrior chariots. And they strike the enemy with blindness, and Elisha is able to capture them. We need to tap into this in our own community activism work, because sometimes we may look at the natural facts and they may be frustrating or may even look impossible. But we have to look to the Bible, look to our supernatural vision in order to obtain our victory. The second thing is that narrow vision can amplify your weaknesses. In Numbers chapters 13 and 14, we read the story about the 10 spies. Caleb and Joshua had supernatural vision. They were looking further than what was in the natural. So when they went to the land, they gave a positive report. However, the other spies, they were limited to just their narrow vision. They're just looking at what they could see in the natural. So they came back with a bad report. They just saw their own weakness. They said that in comparison to what was in Canaan, they were just grasshoppers. They saw themselves as small. Whereas Caleb and Joshua saw themselves as giants of faith because they're standing on the fact that God already gave them that land. You can see this in activism as well. If we're just looking at the natural facts that are presenting themselves, we have a tendency to amplify our weaknesses, a tendency to look at our shortcomings instead of acting in faith and looking at the promises that God has already given us. The third thing is that what you see will determine who you will become. Joseph in Genesis chapter 37 verses 5 to 7 had a dream, and he saw in his dream that he would be in rulership. Because that's what he saw, he acted throughout the rest of his life as somebody who was in rulership. So it didn't matter whether his brother sold him into slavery. It didn't matter whether he was in the military leader's house. It didn't matter if he was in the prison. Everywhere he went, he always carried himself as what he saw, as somebody who was in authority, somebody who was in rulership. The same thing happens to us in community activism work. We have to carry ourselves as what we see. If we see our community be changing a certain way, we have to carry ourselves and act as if that's what's going to come to pass, no matter what the natural circumstances says about it. Well, that wraps up this week's version of Activist Academy Weekly. Well, don't forget to check us out on our YouTube channel, where you can get further information about activism news, amongst other things in the social justice field. Also, don't forget to check us out at our website, www.activistacademy.com, where you can go and follow us on our regularly updated blog, and where you can get biblically based activism trainings, as well as utilize our social networking tools to promote your own activism work. Well, until next week, this is Quilen Blackwell saying good day and good night.